Okay, this is from Mediaite. Taylor Lorenz defends her celebration of Brian Thompson's murder, saying it's natural.
It's natural if you're a demon.
Let me read this. This is
Sorry.
These people are mind-blowingly evil and stupid. Former New York Times and Washington Post journalist Taylor Lorenz defended her celebration of the assassination of Brian Thompson. On Wednesday, in the hours immediately following Thompson being shot, Lorenz expressed her dismay with health industry, saying, and people wonder why we want these executives, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to read her full statement. She went on to share celebratory graphics that she said were being spammed in her group chats. It's a picture of a star smiling, and it says CEO down, and she's like, that's just what my group chat's sharing. What group chat are you in, dude? Anyway, unsurprisingly, her joy over the extinguishment of Thompson's life drew criticism. After providing some examples of others dancing on Thompson's grave while only mentioning one of her many enthusiastic posts, she addressed the backlash, saying, quote, naturally, the mainstream media began pearl clutching it in outrage after I posted a quote tweet about insurance companies no longer paying for certain anesthesia with the phrase, and people wonder why we want these executives, and then she goes on to mention not being alive anymore. Legacy media outlets, including Fox News, pounced and wrote a slew of articles about my calls for violence. Let me be super clear. My post uses a collective we and is saying explaining the public sentiment. It is not me personally saying I want these executives dead. And I'm not going to read her quote. I'm explaining that thousands of Americans, myself included, are fed up with our barbaric healthcare system and the people at the top who rake in millions while inflicting pain, suffering, and the death on millions of innocent people. So basically, she said, oh, I can't believe they're mad at me. I wasn't saying I wanted it to happen. I'm saying I, as well as other people, want it to happen.
She was speaking for all of us.
Yeah, it's
not for me.
Thanks, Taylor. Definitely not for me.
Before we move on, there's one thing that I want to point out, though. The problems that people face with our healthcare system go way beyond insurance. There's no reason for you to need to have insurance just to go see a regular doctor for a checkup. Most of the time, most people should be able to afford that. Like, it's not necessary. It's not necessary for things to cost as much as they do. And if it wasn't for the fact that insurance and healthcare is tied to employment, you need insurance for literally anything that you do. If all these barriers to entry didn't exist, healthcare in the U.S. would be significantly cheaper. So it's easy to point at the big company and say it's their fault, but it's not exclusively the big companies. The big government is in and of itself is directly responsible for a lot of the policies that doctors have to follow that make it necessary to have the big companies and stuff involved in everyday healthcare.
One of the problems I take with the far left is that they implement the government regulations that create the insurance companies' mechanisms.
Absolutely.
The insurance companies, of course, have revolving door lobbyists who want to get jobs in the government and then get jobs at these companies. But it is the angry left saying more government regulations, creating the system that they then complain about and then use to justify death.
To that point, back in the 90s, IBM had 0 lobbyists, and they were proud of that. They talked about it all the time. We don't have anyone in D.C. because they did have the opinion that we don't need to go to the government until the government came after them and said, we're going to sue you as a monopoly. Right. And then they're like, well, what are we going to do? If we're a successful business, we're just doing business. We make computers. It's not like people don't have the option to go somewhere else, because IBM in the 90s isn't IBM today. Bill Gates was rich, but he wasn't as powerful and rich as he is today. And so the only option they had was to get lobbyists, to hire lobbyists, so that way the government wouldn't come after them. So
I was looking at old videos from a few years ago about United Health and their issues, and people were referring to them as like an alternate government because of how big they become. I think that's really interesting. They have more money than JP Morgan. Like, it's a huge thing.
That's true, but at the same time, I heard today that their margin is something like 2%. So granted, the dude made,
which is why they have AI cutting people so they can make money.
The guy that I guess that got killed made like $10 million a year, and it's an exorbitant amount of money. Yeah. But because of the margin they work on, again, 2%, like, that's spending a lot of money to make the money
that big.
And for CEOs of a company that big with that much of revenue, that's actually not $10 million is not that exorbitant, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, if you compare it to other companies of similar size.
I mean, you're never going to tell a leftist that's broke. You're never going to
Right.
tell them that, and they're going to say,
Well, they
okay,
blame
yeah,
everybody
you're right.
else for their problems,
Exactly.
and this is completely unsurprising. I mean, Taylor Lorenz and her ilk are the same kind of people who basically wish death on people who didn't get vaccinated during COVID, and said that it's their fault that she's getting sick and she has to raw dog the air to this day.
Embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
You know, and it's funny that she's kind of getting the brunt of this story, but she is one of the most prominent individuals who has directly engaged in what I would call veiled terrorism.
Yeah.
I say veiled because she didn't literally say go do it, but we all kind of got the gist of what she was saying, right?
I mean, you're dealing with like if you're dealing with people that are, you know, on the edge of society, maybe they have borderline mental illness or something like that, and you're like, oh, saying these things, like they're gonna pick up what you're putting down.
And that's who their base is. Their base, if you look at studies of white liberals, it's something like 2/3 of them have been diagnosed with a mental illness. That's white liberals. Compared to white conservatives, it's something like 20 to 25%. So they literally are speaking to a collective group of mentally ill people who would be more predisposed to engaging in this kind of behavior.
Yep.
And they're hopped up on SSRIs, all types of good stuff.
So yeah, one of the things that really irks me about a lot of these people, well, the left in general, the organizers, the activists, the people I've met, they are not stupid people.
No.
They know how finance works. They know how much money it takes to run a business. They're intelligent. They're nihilistic. During Occupy Wall Street, they explained it outright to me. They understand everything that's going on. They just don't think anything matters. So why should they care about you or your life? This is like the Hillary Clinton mentality. I'm smart, you're dumb. I should just make you do things for me. And so it results in really stupid people not knowing how money works. And they say things like, the CEO of this major, this Fortune 500 company got paid $12 million last year, and the workers are only getting $15 bucks an hour. And then I'm like, all right, let's stop. How many employees does that company have? And they'll be like, I don't know, 40,000. All right, let's divide 12 million by 40,000. How much money do you want to give to the employees? Now, I'm not saying it's good if CEOs are ripping off the company and like doing bad things, selling stocks before investigations or whatever may be happening. But it's like, you're not talking about solutions. You're just saying, I'm mad. And then when we say, here's a solution, you burn the solution and say, I don't want a solution. I want to be mad.
Yeah, because the solution that they actually want is, I want a communist utopia.
Well, but think about what that is, right? The people who want communist utopia are not saying they want a communist utopia. They're saying, I don't want to do any work and I want to be able to live and just chill.
Yeah.
That's really what they're saying. So I had a meeting today with Ian and a couple of video producers, and we're talking about like, how do we make movies and shows, and like, what are the cultural moves we need to make? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, these guys are motivated and want to get stuff done. You don't need communism if you're a person who just wants to do work, if you have drive and ambition, because the money comes with the ambition that you have. And it may be, maybe you're a working class guy and you're struggling to get by and it's tough, but your motivation is, I got a family and I'm gonna feed my family. I'm gonna work as hard as I have to do it. You don't need communism. You are gonna do what you have to do. The communists are the people who are like, but I don't want to wake up.
Yeah, I mean, like, not for nothing, but like I was doing exactly what I do here on Twitter for like 12 years, 13 years before I came and joined the crew here, doing exactly the same thing. And even if I wasn't here, you know, every night of the week, I would still be doing this on Twitter because that's what I did before. You know, it's just, this is recreation to me.
And their idea of getting paid not to work would actually make their mental health issues worse. I mean, I think there's inherent value in work and toil and in being productive. And the idea that you would sit around all day doing literally nothing, like the idea that would give more purpose to your life or make you better off is so backwards.
That's why isolation was so destructive during lockdowns.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. But this is the crazy thing, that for whatever reason, the liberal worldview is work equals bad.
Right.
And I'm like, work is life. And it's weird that we develop this culture where they're like, whoa, man, your work is your life. What's wrong with you, dude? And I'm like, a guy 300 years ago who grew up with his dad, who was a blacksmith, was not upset that someone came to him and said, I need a new sword. And he was like, I know how to make them. Check it out. And then makes it. And they're like, this is the finest sword I've ever seen. It's like, thank you, sir. It made you feel good, made you feel a part of society, you were useful. And for some reason, over the past several decades, we've developed this like drugged out hippie mentality of like, life should be just like laying around and looking at the sky.
Yep.
And what?
Well, they'll be in the fields when they get their utopia of communism.
Oh, they don't get it.
Yeah.
3-Body Problem. Have you guys seen it? It went viral a while ago because it's a Netflix show and it opened with the Culture Revolution in China, and it's epic. And because it's so old, I'm going to spoil a bit of it. But you've got this Red Guard woman beating a guy, a professor, for refusing to give him the answers they want on stage. He's got a dunce cap on. Later on, this woman has her hand has been amputated and she's breaking rocks in a field. These lefty communists don't realize. Let me ask you: you don't want to work? What skills do you have? What passions drive you? Nothing? Okay, break rocks. Because the dude who knows how to program computers, the communists are going to be like, okay, program computers. And then you say, but I just want to like read and do poetry. Break rocks, and they're going to put you in a quarry. They're going to say, do the labor you can do, because to each according to their needs, from each according to what is it? From each according to their means.
Their ability to each according to their
there you
means.
go. And that means what are you good at and what can you do? Okay, well, we'll give you a little bit of food, and the only thing you're capable of doing for the system is going to be menial labor. Congratulations, you've got everything you've ever wanted.
It's interesting that they don't teach the Cultural Revolution in a lot of colleges or schools. Like, you grow up, a lot of people don't just know about what happened with Mao. They don't know what happened with Stalin. Oh, for sure it's intentional, because they want to implement it. And if you know the consequences, you might be afraid to go down that utopian route, you know?
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.